Circle number 2 is paint added immediately and slowly to the paper. So I'm going to get my paint, but this time I'm going to move my paintbrush slow and careful. Notice anything different? Moving slowly lets a little more water settle into the paper, so the edges might look slightly softer, maybe a little bit more bold, but it's nothing like the wet on wet blooming that we see up here. Not as crisp, a little bit softer. Circle 3 is add lots of water to your palette and add paint to the palette, then to the paper. So we're adding a bunch of water. Add paint. Which is adding more than usual. We're mixing the paint into this watery puddle. Then I'm going to bring that loaded brush to the dry paper and watch what happens. Even though the paper itself is dry, the extra water I mixed in makes the paint spread more and look lighter, almost like a wash. This shows us how we get wet, how wet we get our paint matters just as much as how wet our paper is. Right, the next one is dotting on dry paper. Just like before, I'll dot my brush onto the paper instead of dragging it. Just dot, dot, dot. We'll compare this to the dotting we did on the wet paper last time. All right, these dots stay put. They don't bloom or spread into each other. It's nice and controlled, even if we have a lot of water in there. Remember, we're doing watercolors. If you take straight out of the pan, you're gonna end up using up all your paint very, very quickly. So we want our waters to be watery because they are watercolors. The more water I have, it still allows us to make nice controlled dots with a good coloring. Even though I used this super watery color. It's nice and controlled. This next one is two colors meeting on dry paper. This is our last circle. We're gonna do blue again. And yellow. Let the edges just touch. Look closely at the line where they meet. Try to get them to just barely touch. I got a little yellow in the blue, a little too close while it was still wet. So normally you can get a nice crisp line when the paper is dry. But because I touched the yellow to the blue and the blue was already wet, it created a wet on wet situation. The biggest difference between the two is usually the control that you have and how much bleeding and spreading you can get. It's also a technique that you have to practice. All right, you're gonna repeat all 5 in this second row so we get more practice and compare our results.